Is Return to Silent Hill good? No, it's not. If you were expecting to come into this video expecting me to reaffirm your opinion that the movie is actually good, I'm sorry, this is not that type of video. However, I do want to talk about Return to Silent Hill because Return to Silent Hill is a very interesting movie to me. But not because I think it's a good movie, but I think it's a very intriguing case study on how to not make a movie. Let's get a couple things out of the way. So, Return to Silent Hill is a new movie in an already existing franchise. Return to Silent Hill is an expansion to those original Silent Hill movies, and that's fine. Silent Hill 1 was okay, Revelations is kind of the movie that people know exists but try their best to forget it. Return to Silent Hill is a movie that's within the same world as the old movies, but the problem is that it basically isn't. The movies don't really connect aside from a cult and the visuals of the town itself. I don't know, which in my opinion is kind of a mixed opportunity. I know this is how the game is, but the movie had a chance to really solidify that connection to the original movies, but didn't. Return was announced alongside all of the other Silent Hill projects in 2022, and sees the return of the director of the original movie, Christoph Gans. I was pretty excited when I first saw this announcement, and especially since I hadn't played Silent Hill 2 yet, at least in 2022, so I was pretty excited. You see, in 2022, Silent Hill was essentially a dormant franchise since PT, and at the time, it felt like we were about to eat the best meals of our lives. Silent Hill fans were about to be fed. We got Silent Hill Ascension, Silent Hill Townfall, Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill F, Silent Hill The Short Message. We thought we were finally seeing the return of your father after he said he was going out to get milk. Now the reality is that your father sent an email, and just like a certain wrestler in the Royal Rumble, he couldn't actually be bothered to show up to announce his return. Short Message was mixed. Ascension is now the one that people try to pretend doesn't exist. Townfall? Basically non-existent. But Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill F, they're pretty good as long as you don't formulate your opinions on Twitter. I like to say that Return to Silent Hill feels like someone tried to cook a TV dinner using a nuclear reactor instead of a microwave. I say this because, like TV dinner, the movie cooks some parts but ultimately burns the rest, and while the presentation looks nice in some areas, the food tastes awful, even if it was cooked properly. Just to be clear, I haven't eaten yet at the time of writing the script, so I'm a little hungry and would eat anything right now. I'm not going to pretend that I'm this huge Silent Hill fan, but I did play the Silent Hill 2 remake, and even though I didn't enjoy it at first and I was just like hella confused, the more I dove into the lore and the more I actually started learning about the series, the more I started falling in love with this franchise. I wanted Return to Silent Hill to be good, and even though everyone was doubting it, the trailer got me excited. But even looking at the trailer myself, something seemed off. By the way, I'm thinking of streaming Silent Hill 1, so you should totally subscribe so you can watch me do that. But the Silent Hill series, just like the town itself, is something that isn't just experienced at the surface. So, similar to the characters in the game, true understanding of what's going on requires you to go deeper. I feel like I could do like a transition here, but I don't actually know good transitions. Oh wait, I have an idea. How about we just... Alright, let's talk about what I like. Yes, even in a movie like this, there are things I like. Visuals. Certain scenes, they look pretty good. I love the shots when James first enters Silent Hill. The town feels empty, the town feels real, the fog looks pretty good, the other world looks really good. The monsters that are from the game, very specific here, look great. The town is really creepy, the silence is really creepy, the set design is awesome, the hospital looks cool, the apartment looks cool. The town feels like the game just comes to life, which is pretty cool. The camera work is pretty good. I think the movie knows how to visually build tension. There's a lot of visual storytelling which I can appreciate. First and second act are good, and it condenses the Woodside apartment and the hospital scenes fairly well. Hannah Emily Anderson, who I know as Eleanor from Jigsaw, is pretty good. I think her portrayal of Mary is done really well. I was invested in seeing their life before she died, and I think James and Mary's relationship is built up fairly decently, despite it being different from the game. James's acting is pretty good, with my only gripe being that Jeremy Irvine's accent comes out like a couple times. You can even hear in the trailer.
Something's happened here. Something really, really bad.
Unfortunately, that's where the appreciation stops. In terms of what I don't like, there's a lot. The creepers don't look good. They look really out of place with the rest of the scene. The moths look extremely fake. The spider mannequin is extremely plastic but has a great ass. And Vecna Mary, I mean like the prosthetics look good. Just weird. Also, they didn't make Pyramid Head extremely hot, and I hate it. But the third act feels extremely rushed, and I feel like the movie falls apart when James wakes up in Brookhaven Hospital. Honestly, once they get to the hospital scene, the movie just starts to do random things and throw things at the wall hoping it lands. Like the cult stuff, which isn't explained and is kind of just there. Which, by the way, isn't the same cult as the first movie. It's a completely new cult, and they're just there. They serve no purpose to James, and is just there to replace Mary's disease. I don't want to compare the game and the movie too much, but the point I want to make is that the cult storyline doesn't add anything to the series, and ultimately detracts from the story more than build it up. And the reason it detracts is because the movie can't actually bother to explain more about the cult itself. So instead of being a weird scene that makes you feel gross, it's a weird scene that leaves you confused and feeling nothing at all. The presence of the cult also detracts because it makes James's motivation for leaving Mary unclear. In the movie version, him leaving Mary is a forced plot event because there's nothing behind his motivation to leave. This lack of character motivation also comes from the fact that the characters are no longer husband and wife, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. The movie has them together because the story needs them to be together. Instead of making you believe that they actually care for each other, it's all very surface level motivations. James also comes back to mercy kill Mary sometime later, which is also a weird decision for me because it ultimately undoes the conflict that the movie itself created. But this also spawns the god-awful tape on beard. It's horrible to look at, but James himself is a very hollow person. He does things in the movie because the movie requires him to get to the next part of the movie, but not because he feels like he needs to. James is a fake human, almost as fake as his beard is. He's here because the movie needs him to be in order to say that it's Silent Hill, but his actions, his motivations are all fake. Even though James reacts to Silent Hill in a fairly realistic way, his actions throughout the movie are just so fake and so forced. We're told by the therapist that he's been delusional since he lost Mary, but we don't really see what this means. We don't see or feel him become this way, and we don't see why he needs to get Mary, or why he actually believes Mary is there. Once again, we see his actions, but they're hollow. They mean nothing because it's not James who wants to return to Silent Hill, it's the movie. Also, he doesn't get a true metal pipe as a weapon, and that kind of irritated me. Like, Cheryl Mason got one for Christ's sake. Oh, right, and also Eddie is here too, and he does fuck all aside from letting James talk to the audience. His role here is just so James can verbally say what he does for a living, and provides us no new information. He doesn't represent anything, he's just here. Not even as a hallucination of all the disgusting parts of James, he's just here because the game did, and then he isn't. Also, I saw someone say that they hate that they made James Sunderland from just some guy into a painter. But like, why? Can a guy not have a hobby? Like, he's an office clerk or something in the games, and what he does in the games is not important. And it's not important in the movie either. They could have at least made it that his creativeness as a painter is why the monsters look the way they do. But aside from Pyramid Head in the most obvious, "He's Pyramid Head, do you get it?" scene ever, like, I saw him under the mask, I got it from there. Now that I think about it, I feel like I saw a lot of people also not like that Mary and James seemed to have a life before she got sick. Which is very confusing to me because people seem to forget that they were married a few years prior. Their relationship doesn't start when Mary is dying, like the characters are allowed to have lives prior to the main events of the story. This is the only thing in the movie that doesn't conflict with the story. I don't think the change is as serious as people make it to be.
Something's happened.
Now, I've talked a lot about James, and I know there's one thing I haven't mentioned, which is the biggest problem of this movie. Sit down for this one and restrain yourselves if you have to. I'm gonna say the words. I'm gonna say it, alright? I don't want you to get mad, I don't want you to go to the comments, "Oh, why did you..." No, I'm gonna say it because it's unfortunately one of the parts of the movie. You ready? Mary, Angela, Laura, Crane. This movie single-handedly puts every single fanfiction writer to shame. As I said earlier, I don't want to do much comparisons to the game, mainly because I think it's useless to do that. So I'm going to talk about why that doesn't work in the movie. Reason number 1. We don't know anything about Angela or Laura. Angela and Laura are nothing characters, but the way that the movie presents the characters, I don't know who Angela is. We don't know why she's like this, just that she is the way she is. We're not supposed to know that she's a victim of sexual abuse at the start, but the movie also does a piss poor job at explaining that. The only line that even hints at that is, "No one will ever touch me again." Furthermore, there is no built-up connection that would hint that these two are supposed to be the same character. The only time there's a connection is after it's already revealed, but you can't do that because it's already too late. This change also ruins the meaning for Abstract Daddy, which, by the way, Abstract Daddy looks great here. He's horrifying. But when you take away Abstract Daddy's meaning, he becomes empty. There's no reason for it to be there, and the movie doesn't even try to change his reason for being. I don't think that this change is a terrible one, but the movie itself has to justify this change and figure out how to show this properly. If she's a representation of that scared, father-manipulated side of Mary, then the movie has to give us some substance to that. Why does James imagine his wife this way, when from what we see, Mary's feelings regarding her father don't match the broken woman that we see in Angela? Laura is the same way. Laura is also a character that we know nothing about. She's in the movie, but nothing more than that. She's not there with a purpose. She doesn't show a side of Mary, and the most she does is give us the Mary, Angela, Laura Crane scene. She's scared of James, which could have been a good way to hint that Mary was maybe frightened of James, but because of the way that the movie portrays James, that doesn't actually exist. She's a creepy ghost girl for half the movie, and isn't anything more. The multiple versions of the same person can be done, and especially in Silent Hill, I don't think it's entirely impossible for this to exist. It's not impossible to imagine that different iterations of the same character can exist, and that James is conjuring up these different parts of Mary. But the problem is that those same people cannot be extremely different from each other, and those versions have to be fairly consistent with each other. Mary's father is also somewhat of an antagonist here too, because Mary's father is technically the reason why all this cult stuff and Mary's trauma is supposedly happening. But the movie doesn't elaborate on Joshua Crane at all. I know the original plan was supposed to have Stephen Lang as the dad and he was supposed to be more involved, but Stephen Lang is getting the Avatar money, so I don't blame him. Joshua Crane can still have an overwhelming presence in the movie, but Joshua Crane's effects need to be seen, both in the past and the present. Think about this. In Infinity War, which yes, I know, completely different story. In Infinity War, Mark Ruffalo mentions that Thanos is coming, and that he was the one behind New York's attack in Avengers 1. Iron Man starts freaking out because he had visible trauma from Avengers 1, which we saw in Iron Man 3. So, because he feels that this is his chance to finally put behind his trauma, he actively seeks him out, instead of running away, because he's been unconsciously affecting Iron Man in all his decisions since 2012. Now, if we look at Return to Silent Hill, Joshua Crane is meant to be this Thanos. Not physically and not literally, but he's someone who has some influence over Mary's life. But we don't actually see that because the movie does a bad job at portraying it. Instead of seeing Mary's disdain for her father or how it actually affected her life, we just get told every now and then that he did. This goes against show don't tell, if you heard about that rule before. We don't need to see Joshua doing an Abstract Daddy for fuck's sake, but we could at least see the effects in Mary. And in turn, we can understand how Mary and Angela are connected. They have the same trauma. On top of that, we can also see how Laura can be this girl that isn't affected by the monsters because she doesn't understand them. Because she'd essentially be this childlike innocence of Mary that may not know what her father did, but is still affected. Once again, there isn't anything inherently wrong with trying to make these people the same character, but if you're gonna do that, you have to be able to back up that decision, give it a reason to exist, and communicate those changes so they don't feel like a wasted opportunity. Oh, also the therapist is in this too, and Considering how I didn't mention her at all just goes to show how little she adds to this movie. Man, I should play Silent Hill 2 again.
But we still have what makes the best is the story. And this story is at the core of it.
The Silent Hill series is confusing, but we can get enough pieces to think about and understand what everything truly means. The movie doesn't do that. The movie is trying to be an art house movie without making any attempt to make it work. Having implied horror isn't bad. The movie just needs to put the pieces down so we can start solving. Return to Silent Hill just relies on the game too much that it can't be its own movie. You know how you'd watch Hunger Games, and if there's something you didn't understand, somebody would come up to you and be like, well, you should have read the books. Well, that's almost the same way that Silent Hill is, but the problem is that even with the game, it makes those questions even more confusing. You can't use the game to fill in pieces because they're for an entirely different puzzle. Overall, the movie just feels very flat, and unlike the town of Silent Hill, there are no layers to this movie. It never goes to a high, the emotions in the story are just so extremely stagnant. I don't feel anything while watching it. The most emotion I felt was seeing a wooden plank to barricade the door because I went, oh, it's the exact wooden plank he gets in the game! But that's it. This movie is just terrible at presenting its own ideas. I'm not sure if they were scared to do its own thing, so they kept relying on the game to carry its story, but it doesn't work regardless because of how the story is presented. That's why this movie is bad. Not because the movie isn't a one-to-one adaptation, but because of how the story is presented. We've seen bad adaptations but good movies before, but unfortunately Return to Silent Hill is not only a bad adaptation, it's also a bad movie.
What you're doing, it won't be enough to save her.
Man, I really wanted to like this movie. If you're still here, thanks for watching. Honestly, I probably am going to play some more Silent Hill 2 just to get over the fact that the movie exists. Like, this is fun. This game is fun. I'm having fun with this game now. I didn't have fun at first, but as I'm playing through it, honestly, it just gets more and more fun. I also need to play Silent Hill F some more, as well as, like, go back to Silent Hill 1, which I'll probably be streaming sometime soon. I don't know when exactly I'll be streaming it, but hopefully sometime during this month before Requiem comes out, because once Requiem comes out, that's taking up my entire life. You're only going to be seeing me stream Requiem. If you like this movie, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, everyone has their own taste. If you completely hate this movie, you know, understandable. But I don't think it's fair to judge a movie based on what it does differently from the source material. I think if the movie wants to change something, it needs to be able to make you understand those changes. It needs to be able to give a reason for those changes, and then it can't just change things for the sake of if they wanted to, you know? If they want to add the cult storyline, that's fine. They just have to have a reason for the cult storyline. They just have to make it work. Here, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. But anyways, leave a like on the video, please. That would be much help. If you haven't subscribed, maybe drop one. I think that would be pretty cool. You know, I stream most times. I'm streaming on here and on Twitch, so either one works. But other than that, I'm gonna go eat now. I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully. Dang. Oh, wait a minute. If it's